Today's leg day, best day of the week. Today we are going to take you through the entire session. We are going to go in depth, in detail, all the different tips, tricks, everything's kind of trying to optimize the workout and get the most bang for buck out of the leg session as possible. I mean, it's focusing the full legs, but our main priority at the moment is building up glutes and hammies. So if you're interested in maybe wanting to build your own glutes and hammies, might be worth watching to the end of this video. But also, if you're maybe just wanting to learn how to get the most out of your leg sessions, consider watching to the end of the video, because we're going to go into detail, we're going to give you as much value as possible. So without further ado, we're going to nosh this banana, and we'll see you when the leg workout's starting. So guys, before we get into the voiceover, there's a couple of things that I need to mention for the sake of explaining the approach I am taking with my training plan at the moment, the reasons why. So it means you guys can potentially apply it to your own training if you feel it's relevant to you as well. But number one being, we are currently using an RPE style of training. This is the first time I've really used this approach. So RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion. So it's essentially like a sliding scale, 0 to 10, 10 being you go into absolute failure as hard as you can. Anything below that obviously is a certain amount away from failure. So most of the work we are doing at the moment is around 7 or 8 RPE. And the reason for this is because going into this new training plan, I was in a relatively injured state and I wasn't able to train at maximal capacity anyway. So with that in mind, we wanted to still be able to obviously build muscle, but we wanted to be working through the injuries and not making them worse or aggravating them further. Okay, so staying a little bit away from failure is a bit of a safety measure, but what we have done instead is increase the amount of working sets that we have done compared to previous programs we followed. So therefore, even though it's slightly lower intensity and lower stimulus we were achieving from each set, because we're doing more of them, it kind of makes up for it in that aspect. And finally, also, it gives us room to taper things up and taper intensity up. So secondly, only working sets are recorded in this video, but I wanted to make super clear, I'm always doing multiple warm-up sets for every single exercise, and I encourage you guys to do the same. And finally, just to talk about the order of the exercises that we have in the session. So specifically with regards to the first couple of exercises, so we have glute drive, we then have lying hamstring curl, and then we have RDLs. The reason we have the glute drive and lying hamstring curl prior to a heavy compound lift like RDLs, which a lot of people may start a session with, is because we are pre-fatiguing the muscles ready for that compound lift. So when it comes to getting the stimulus we want from the compound lift, we can achieve that by using slightly lighter weight, risking injury less, and just still getting the same bang for buck, but with less risk of snapping things up, basically. So without further ado, let's get into the session. Right, so as you can see here, I am on my phone. And the reason for this is very actually important reason is before any working set, I will always go on my phone, put an absolute banger on, and just spend a bit of time getting hyped up, getting in the zone, getting ready to attack the weight. But also just making sure kind of I'm set up properly to do the exercise, as you can see there. Just me checking that my feet are going to be in the right position, getting everything set up. But then you'll see in a moment that I kind of take a second, take a few breaths, close my eyes, and that's me getting in the zone. And I cannot explain how important doing something like that is to your training performance. It's going to really improve your ability to perform, to be strong, to lift heavy, and it's going to make a difference to your performance. So if you're not doing that sort of thing already, make sure you are doing it. Okay, so as you see here, we have our feet about shoulder width apart. You want your knees to be at approximately kind of a 45-degree angle and, well, right angle bend when you are at that top squeeze position of the glute drive. Okay, we are nice and controlled on that eccentric, as you'll see is a common theme throughout pretty much all of these exercises. We are then pausing that stretch position because if you guys are up to date with the literature, you will know the eccentric and that pause length and range is where we get the most bang for buck in terms of muscle breakdown. So we want to rinse those, and then driving up nice and powerful, little squeeze at the top to connect to the glutes, and then we are done. And yeah, that was about 7 out of 10 RPE, I believe. And yeah, little bunda slap there. Thumbs up, love to see it. Okay, a little water break here. So I wanted to include this because I wanted to just talk about the importance of actually just hydrating and properly staying hydrated between your sets. So a really, really good habit to get into is just sipping. Don't glug water because that will hydrate your body a lot more inefficiently. Sip water between each set just to keep your body hydrated. Nice and simple, okay? So on to exercise number 2, we've got hamstring curl, seated hamstring curl specifically. First of all, we adjust the seats to make sure that the back pad and the heel pad are in the correct position. You want the back pad in the right position so your knees are in line with that axis of movement. Basically, so they're just hanging over the edge of the seat, not too much though, because otherwise you're not going to have good stability in the movement. And you want that ankle pad in more of a comfortable position, but kind of just above your heels. Same as last time, see me close my eyes, get myself psyched up, get myself ready. And then when I'm ready, I drive my arms against that quad pad, whatever you want to call it, and that enables me to gain stability. I know some people like to kind of wrap themselves underneath that bar, and that's what they find better. So kind of play around with that yourself, but I really recommend pressing against something to kind of get that stability in the seated position, because especially when you're doing something like a seated leg curl, it's very easy for your body to kind of shift around quite a lot, which can actually reduce your performance, reduce the amount of reps you get, and also reduce your ability to connect to the target muscle. Okay, so similar to the glute drive, we are controlling that eccentric there. So as the lowering down, we have a micro pause in that lengthened range, and then we are squeezing at the bottom. Nice and simple. Exercise number 2 done. So exercise number 3, we have the first compound lift, RDLs. We strap up because my forearms are pussies, so I cannot grip for shit, and my hamstrings are much stronger than what my grip can hold. So we strap up, but we're trying to build the forearm strength to catch up, and then we get the bangers on. As you see here, like literally guys, this is, I feel like, so underrated by a lot of people, is getting some good music on, not just flipping Ed Sheeran or your favorite pop song, getting some banging tunes that give you energy and allow you to harness that energy and put it into that performance in the set. You will notice a difference in your performance, I promise. And if you're performing better, you're going to build more muscle over the long term. So it's all within your best interest, right? So as you see here, we're getting in the zone. I'm thinking of all the people that have hurt me in my life, all my ex-girlfriends, and just internally pissing myself off as much as physically possible. So unrack, you want to take a couple steps back, really don't rush into starting the movement, get your feet positioned stable, and then take a nice brace at the top before then controlling that eccentric once again. You want a momentary pause in that stretched, lengthened position of the hamstrings. Not enough people do that. They kind of jolt out of that lengthened range and they actually lose connection to their hamstrings. And then driving those hips through, back up to that standing position, and then taking the brace before you go back down again and repeating. Really important to note here, like, I have done way heavier than this in RDLs. I've done, I think 185 is the max I've got up to, and that was when I was natural. Okay, so I could do heavier than this if I really wanted to, but this should be testament to the fact of prioritizing the form, the control, the mind-muscle connection over just shifting heavy-ass weight. Shifting heavy-ass weight has its place, but not, in my opinion, when it's prioritized over those other things. You might look like a big boy in the gym, and your friends might look at you and be like, wow, you're so cool and big and strong. But then you get the dweeb over in the corner who's actually doing it with proper form control, connecting to the muscle. That dweeb is going to get bigger and stronger than that dude being a knob and ego lifting and slamming weights around. Still pushing yourself hard, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean be a pussy. That's really important. If you're not pushing yourself hard enough, you're just not going to progress no matter what. But assuming you are still pushing yourself, doing the exercises with better mind-muscle connection, better control, form, so on and so forth, like I just did just there, even though if you wanted to, you could probably bump the weight up a reasonable amount, but form would take a hit, and therefore your mind-muscle connection would probably take a hit, and your control would not be able to be as good. That's the wrong choice to go up in weight. On to this movement, just, Oh, it's disgusting. Like, even just watching this back, I'm just like, I feel sorry for you, Sam, having to do this. Past Sam, I've got leg day tomorrow as well, so I have to do it again tomorrow. Brilliant. This is Smith machine lunges, not an exercise I've ever actually done before. So slightly different to split squats. We don't have our rear foot elevated or in position the entire time. We're actually moving our rear leg, as you'll see here, going to that lunge position and then bringing that leg up. So all of the driving force goes through that front leg rather than having the rear leg constantly taking some of that strain and some of that weight. So this is quad focus. So we want to have our heel on that front leg positioned as far back as we can whilst keeping strong, stable contact to the floor. That's going to enable us to get the most amount of knee flexion, which is imperative when we're talking about quad stimulus. Okay, so the more range of motion we can take the quad through, which is achieved via knee flexion, the better stimulus we're going to get, the better quad growth we're going to get. Also, what you'll notice is before I start each set, I just take my time. Once again, like, a lot of getting good at training and performing things with good form is just not rushing. So many people rush training too much. Taking those extra few seconds to make sure your foot is directly down in that position you want, so you're feeling completely stable, maybe adjusting it slightly if you don't feel slightly stable after that first rep. It will bring you the couple percent benefit more out of that movement. And if you're getting a couple percent benefit more, you're going to be making a couple percent benefit more progress because you're getting a bit better stimulus, so on and so forth. So all of these things add up. And when we're talking about like bodybuilding, and for me specifically, or any of you guys watching who are wanting to make like optimal progress and you want to squeeze out those percentages, I really recommend you taking all of this advice on board and applying it into your own training. Finally, we're once again controlling that eccentric, having a micro pause at the bottom in that stretch position of the quad before driving back up and then resetting at the top. But we are making sure we are coming as far down as we can with that lunge. No half reps here. So yeah, we have pretty much toasted the glutes and hamstrings at this point, which is why we then moved on to quads with the Smith machine lunges. And then we are continuing on with quads with the next exercise, which is leg extensions. With leg extensions, most of you guys watching will probably know how you're setting this up, but you just basically want to make sure your knees, once again, dangling just over the edge in line with that axis of movement. You then want to, and this is actually really, really important and underrated, push the shin pad as far back as you possibly can, because that's going to increase the range of motion of the movement. Is going to increase the stretch of the quads at the bottom, rather than just kind of stopping and clanning the weight stack, when in reality you could go a lot further back. So as you see here, I'm gripping those handles with everything I've got and I'm putting myself down into that seat. This is really important for just strength and stability in this movement, and once again, it will add those extra few percent to your performance. Also, notice how I drive up, squeeze, and I'm holding at the top. And the reason why I'm doing such a long hold at the top, such a long eccentric, and then such a long pause at the bottom is specific, more like a lot more specific to me and my knee injuries. Okay, so that's just really focused on strengthening the connective tissue around my quadricep tendon, okay, which is where I had problems. So the eccentric would probably be the only thing that would be the same if I was doing it without any injuries. Really important, and as you'll see what I do here is you're not pausing at the bottom with the weight stack down. Okay, you are pausing at the bottom whilst still holding that resistance of the weight stack with your legs. Okay, you're literally getting nothing if you put it down altogether and stop. Whereas if you hold that resistance, you are still straining through the muscle and it's in that lengthened range, which, as I said earlier, more recently been shown to be one of the most effective parts of the movement if you are holding a resistance in that portion of the muscle, in that lengthened range. Okay, so we're getting really good bang for buck out of this. Right, next we have the unilateral leg press. So this is something that I also have never done in like a specific program. This is quad focus once again. So as you see, I am positioning my heel as low down on the platform as possible. And the reason for this is to, same as the Smith machine lunges, get the most amount of knee flexion possible. If I wanted to target the glutes with this single leg press rather than my quads, I would shuffle my heel up a bit higher on the platform, and that's going to basically mean I have less knee flexion and more hip flexion. And when you flex the hips, what's doing that? The glutes therefore more range of motion at the glutes, you're working your glutes more. Okay, so little side note there. Similar things to the leg extension in the sense of, you see those handles, I'm really gripping them and pulling myself down for stability in this movement. And then same as the others, controlling that eccentric, so controlling the weight down, micro pause at the bottom in that stretch position, really rinsing as much as we can out of it, and then driving back up, resetting, and between each rep, bracing. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is whenever you are doing a quad focused leg press movement like this, you see the back of the seat, okay, that can actually come up to a bit more of a upwards angle, or be put back down to a bit more of a lower angle. And whenever you're doing a quad focused movement on a leg press specifically, you want that seat to be at that lower angle, so a bit more kind of reclined backwards, okay? And the reason for that is because the more reclined your upper body is back, the less hip flexion is going to occur, and therefore the more you can focus on that knee flexion and the quad stimulus. Vice versa, if you're trying to work your glutes with a leg press, bring that seat up and you're going to get more hip flexion and less focus on the knee flexion. Final exercise, we've got the baby moo cows. Pretty straightforward with this calf movement. We are obviously doing a standing calf raise. When we talk about the concentric, so the drive up, we are looking to be explosive, but then we're talking about lowering it back down again. Right, this is where we get the most bang for buck, in that lowering down portion and pausing in that length and range. So that's why you notice, right, really slow on the way back down, and then really take my time in that length and range and stretch that muscle out whilst keeping it under load. That is super important. And then notice how even on that final rep, and this is where percentages come in again, right? It's like, yes, you can do the final drive up and you're like, right, that's the rep done, and then just kind of drop the weight back down, and it will still be a good set, don't get me wrong. But if you want to squeeze out that extra 1-2% benefit, pause in that stretch position, then drop. Okay, you haven't done an extra rep, but you've just got extra out of the set. Cool, so that is the leg session done, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something by watching this. Please comment down below with what did you learn? What did you find was the most interesting thing? What does your leg workout look like? Do you have any comments on my video? Any recommendations for maybe things for me to try or change in my leg workout? I'm always happy to have a chat down below, so please do comment. Also, if you like this video, make sure you sling it a like, smash that like button. It goes a long way and it really helps push this video out to more people. And if you want to join me on this journey, the enhanced journey, the bodybuilding journey, it's all going to be documented on my channel. So subscribe to the channel and come along for the ride. The next video is going to be me going over my blood work for 8 weeks on steroids, which will be coming soon. So stay tuned. Hope you're having a lovely day and see you in the next video.